Well, yeah, as of now, I have to still assume that they'll make the playoffs, and I'll probably feel that way for a while. Even if they go into the bye week 1-5, Lamar comes back week 8, they start to get some of these guys healthier. Like, it's going to take me a while before I'm just like, all right, they're not going to make the playoffs. Now, is it possible? Without a doubt. I literally thought this the other day. Like, yes, the wheels could completely fall off the bus. I mean, it's a big talk here in Baltimore about the Orioles and their season and how it went. And it's eerily similar when you compare it to how the Ravens season is starting out right now, and not in a good way. So, yes, you have to kind of prepare for the worst.
It's time for the Sportsnot Interview. Newsmakers and record breakers from around the world of sports. Join us in conversation. The latest in sports talk from the editors at Sportsnot.com. And now, the Sportsnot Interview.
Welcome to the Sportsnot Interview, everyone. I am Evan Groat, your host, and so far in this NFL season, there have been plenty of surprises, but none more shocking than the Baltimore Ravens 1-3 start. We're talking about a team who was a preseason favorite by many to reach the Super Bowl, and many thought they might even win the Super Bowl. Their season has gone horribly wrong for many reasons. We're here to discuss it all today with our guest, Cordell Woodland, who covers the Ravens for 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. And Cordell, we're thanking you so much for joining us here today. We're really excited to chat with you.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you having me.
All right, let's first start with this week before we get into some more big picture topics on the Ravens. Now, it's looking more and more likely that Lamar Jackson will not play this week. He's missed a couple actually, he hasn't practiced at all this week, although the team has been pretty tight-lipped on his status and any details on the injury. Now, if he can't go, it will be Cooper Rush who's going to get the start under center. Now, we know they're dealing with a number of injuries. There's a lot of things that are going wrong for this team right now, but they play a Texans team this week at home who's also struggling 1-3. Do you think this is a must-win game for the Ravens, or are we not at that point yet?
Well, you're at 1-3 right now, so I would say it's must win. I don't think it's the end game type of must win. Like, I don't think their season's over if they lose this game. But no doubt, this is a prideful team. This is a team with high expectations, and they're not happy with the way that the season has gone to this point. So I think just for morale, just to kind of silence some of the noise surrounding this team in general, yeah, you want to win this game. And I get no Lamar being there and a slew of defensive starters potentially not playing in this game as well. But this is a Texans team that the Ravens have dominated throughout their time. They ran all over them last year. Now, granted, Lamar was on the field and he ran all over them as well on Christmas Day. So it will look different, but I would imagine that we are starting to get to that cold red territory. I mean, going into the bye week at week 7, 1-5, big time questions are going to be asked.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you look at the schedule, they have had maybe the toughest September of any team in the league. Losses to Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City. Now, things do get a little bit easier in the coming weeks. You mentioned the bye week coming up, which will be helpful for them with all these injuries. But how much of a factor do you think that the tough schedule, has played into this 1-3 start? And do you think that fans need to keep that in perspective?
I mean, I guess you could say it's played a little bit into that, but this is a Ravens team that usually feast on good teams. They usually don't have a problem going up against those caliber teams, especially in the regular season in September. I mean, that's usually the time that they're running those types of teams off the field. And we're talking about a Ravens team that lost to the Lions at home on Monday Night Football. The Ravens, especially in the Lamar era, in primetime games, I mean, that's the last team you want to go up against. Personally, I'm not giving them a pass for losing to those teams because those are the types of teams that you're going to have to beat if you're talking about them getting to the Super Bowl or ultimately winning the Super Bowl. And now with them losing both games to the Chiefs and the Bills. I mean, that you could kind of kiss the number one seed goodbye at that point. So yeah, I do take solace in the fact that they haven't been able to beat these playoff contending teams.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the defense a little bit. You mentioned some of the injuries to the starters. 7 defensive starters, I believe, on the injury report right now. That'll hurt any team, right? That's hard to deal with. But we were even getting some concerning signs as far back as week 1, where they gave up a lot of points to Buffalo in that opener. They gave up the 15-point lead, of course. They gave up a lot of points to Detroit as well. They're currently ranked 30th in EPA, defensive EPA. And that's just not Ravens football. They were bullied on 4th down versus the Chiefs last week. Have the Ravens lost their identity as a physical, defensive oriented team, top tier defensive oriented team?
Lost it. I don't know in terms of like, can they get it back? They could, theoretically. Last year got off to a similar start for them. They made some adjustments and turned it around. Now, the difference between this year and last year, I don't know how many rabbits out of the hat that they can pull this year. I don't know how many personnel changes that they can make. They made multiple last year. They added coaches as the year went on. I just don't know how many of those types of moves are available to them. But no doubt they have not met their expectations of being a physical team in general, but definitely defense. I mean, let's start with the tackling. They can't tackle anybody. I mean, when's the last time we talked about a Ravens defense not being able to tackle? So that's the number one issue. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. They're not stopping the run to their usual standards. They're usually an elite run stopping defense. They haven't been that way right now. They're not forcing turnovers as well. So they're just not really doing anything positive on the defensive side of the ball. And like you said, a lot of this was happening even before the injury started to stock up. So now with the injuries and the issues, that's why it could be code red for this defense.
Yeah. And I mentioned being ranked 30th in defensive EPA. That is the lowest they have been, their worst ranking through 4 weeks since the 2019 season. Now, history has shown us, if you look back, they've had some struggles in past seasons to start the season defensively, and they've been able to turn it around. And you mentioned some of the reasons why. They've had some changes with coordinators throughout the years. They've made trades. They brought in Roquan Smith one year, I recall. We'll see if they can make those same improvements this year. Their team desperately needs it. We're going to step aside real quick, get to a quick break here. Don't go anywhere. We're listening to the Sportsnot interview with our guest, Cordell Woodland from 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. And we're back here on the Sportsnot interview. We're chatting with Ravens reporter Cordell Woodland from 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. And, we just spoke about the defense and some of their struggles. I want to go over to the offense now. Where has the explosiveness been with this offense? This is a team who, under Todd Monken has seen a lot of success. Lamar Jackson has really blossomed under Todd Monken in this system, but they have had only one play this year of 50 plus yards. So what's your take on that? Are defenses starting to figure out the scheme a little bit, or is there something else going on here?
I don't really know how to answer that because their offense is one of the more head scratching issues right now. I mean, they're third in the league in scoring still, and that's despite the lack of explosive plays. They've been healthy for the most part. Now, Patrick Ricard not being there, I think, is a huge blow to their rushing attack, and their rushing numbers just haven't been what we're used to seeing. A lot of that is because they're just not running the ball enough, but they're not getting those explosive, big signature runs that we're used to seeing the Ravens get, at least not on a regular basis. I think Lamar has struggled with pressure this year. He's getting sacked way more often than we're used to seeing Lamar get sacked. They just don't seem like they have a really good plan against pressure right now as an offense. So I think it's all of those things. And now with Lamar going down, missing some time with the hamstring, I mean, similar to what I said about the defense, how they have their issues, and now you have the injuries piling up. well, the offense has lacked explosive plays, and now you're without one of the most explosive players in the NFL
Yeah.
and Lamar. So that doesn't bode well for them. I'm curious to see what their game plan is in these next couple of games, assuming Lamar is not going to be out there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that point, and you brought up the struggles with the run game. I heard Dan Orlovsky of ESPN talk about this on X. He pointed out that the Ravens are near the bottom of the league in first and second down rush attempts, which is very uncharacteristic of a team, who has Derrick Henry. But when they do run the ball on first and second downs, they're one of the more efficient teams doing so. So that's kind of an interesting stat there that I thought. And I guess it leads me to my next point here. Derrick Henry, is he going to be more involved in this offense? I mean, he's a all-world back. They got to lean on this guy a little bit. I would expect. He's been lightly used in the last 3 games, only 31 carries in those games. Now I know he's had some fumbling issues and whatnot, but without Lamar there, you would think they're going to lean on Derrick Henry a little bit. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I'd imagine it's going to be all hands on deck when it comes to the run game. So I would expect a lot of Derrick Henry, a lot of Justice Hill. Keaton Mitchell will probably be thrown into that mix. He's been a healthy scratch to this point in the season. So we'll see if he's active on Sunday. But if he is, I would imagine he's going to be a part of that as well. I think some of the issues, especially if you go back to this Chiefs game, the Ravens have their own demons that they fight. And part of that is them abandoning the run against teams like Kansas City, because all of a sudden you get down to that team by a field goal or something. And the Ravens, just in their mind, it feels like they're down 17, and they change their entire game plan for whatever reason. So I don't think the fumbles have been an issue, have been the reason that Henry's carries have gone down. I just think it's been them abandoning their game plan early in these games. It's no reason to not feed Derrick Henry as often as possible. The Ravens aren't running enough offensive plays. That's been something John Harbaugh has talked about as well. So I think one way to fix that is run the ball a little more, be more efficient, and also defense, get off the field.
Yeah, that definitely. The offense and the defense and special teams all working in tandem. That's what they got to do a little bit better. Derrick Henry, only one 100-yard rushing game on the season. That came in week 1 against Buffalo. Now, what about John Harbaugh's role in all of this? He's been on that Ravens sideline for a long time. He's one of the better coaches in the league. Talk about the test he's going to be facing here as they look to lean on his leadership to try to keep this thing afloat. Do you think he's up for the task?
Well, we'll see. I mean, John has been in the game as long as anybody. So he's battle tested. He's seen it all. He's done it all. So this is where that legacy, gets tested a little bit. This is where a guy like John, who has been in the game as long as he has been, gets to show, okay, I can resurrect my team a little bit. I can help pick my team up. But some of their issues has been John making mistakes and costing them on the margins, clock management issues. He's talked about them in their game plan, abandoning that. John is heavily involved on the defensive side of the ball, which has been their worst unit to this point. So he's got a hand in this as well. But I am curious to see what he does to go about turning this season around, because just bluntly, I think it's important for him that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point there. And, I'll leave you on this one. You look at the division. I think that's one thing that's working in Baltimore's favor, despite all of the negative things we discussed, the struggles on offense, defense, the injuries. They play in the AFC North, and that division right now, it's winnable, even at 1-3. I think, anyways. When it's all said and done, do you think that the Ravens will find a way to fight and scrap and get their way into a playoff spot?
Well, as of now, I have to still assume that they'll make the playoffs, and I'll probably feel that way for a while. Even if they go into the bye week 1-5, Lamar comes back week 8, they start to get some of these guys healthier. Like, it's going to take me a while before I'm just like, all right, they're not going to make the playoffs. Now, is it possible? Without a doubt. I literally thought this the other day. Like, yes, the wheels could completely fall off the bus. I mean, it's a big talk here in Baltimore about the Orioles and their season and how it went. And it's eerily similar when you compare it to how the Ravens season is starting out right now, and not in a good way. So, yes, you have to kind of prepare for the worst. But for right now, I will give them the benefit of the doubt that they are still a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It all starts this weekend. They got to get a win here against the Texans. You mentioned how it would be a big boost for morale. I agree with you on that as well. All right, everybody. Cordell Woodland, 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. Cordell, great job. Thank you so much for all your great information there, and we appreciate talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.